Want to know how to read an ingredient label? Save this video. How to read an ingredient label on a bag of dry dog food. I'm Jeff. I'm a dog trainer, author, pit bull rescuer and advocate, and holistic pet care practitioner. And I just want to share this video regarding a very simple way to read and interpret a dog food label when you're choosing a dry dog food, and it'll help you better understand not just the ingredients, but how they're sorted. And it's really simple. First and foremost, ingredients on the back of the dog food label, they are listed in order, in descending order by weight. So that means the heaviest ingredient is first. Keep that in mind. A lot of people are suggesting that dog food is listed by volume, and it's not. It's listed by weight. Now, here's the kicker. It's listed by weight in descending order, pre-cooked, before cooking. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me turn my camera around and I'm going to look at a few labels and go over them with you so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so here is a very popular brand. I'm not going to say what brand because it's crap as far as I'm concerned. Not just the ingredients, but the company itself. At any rate, here's your pop quiz. These are the first few ingredients. Hopefully you could see that. Okay. If I asked you what the first ingredient would be, most people would say chicken. Now, it says chicken, but that's not the first ingredient. And this goes back to my point, ingredients listed in descending order by weight, right? So chicken is technically the first ingredient. However, muscle meat, animal protein, whole animal protein is 70% water. So once this is cooked, it loses 70% of its weight. Right? So that is not the first ingredient. Rice is technically the first ingredient. And then you have whole grain wheat and then poultry byproduct meal. Poultry byproduct meal is actually the first animal protein in this food because you really have to take into consideration the weight of the food after cooking, after the extrusion process, right? So what happens to grain and whole grains when you cook them? They absorb water and they expand and they get heavier. So it has the opposite effect that muscle meat does. Right? So when you're looking for a dog food, you want a meal as the first ingredient. Now, poultry byproduct meal is a tricky one because we don't know what is in that formula. If it just said turkey byproduct meal, we know it's specifically turkey. Poultry byproduct meal, it's just way too general as far as what type is in there. And we can get into, the 4Ds, which, back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, poultry byproduct meal was associated with the 4Ds, dead, diseased, dying, and disabled animals. And back then, the stuff they were putting in dog food was so bad. Thankfully, today it's a little better. So I'm not a fan of poultry byproduct meal, but in this particular food, that is the first animal protein ingredient on this list. So chicken, again, loses its weight. It drops down the list. Rice and whole grain wheat, it absorbs moisture. It gets bigger, and obviously that would contribute to its weight gain and its volume as far as the food goes. Okay, and then they also add whole grain corn, soybean meal. I mean, you just don't need all that stuff. A lot of these grain sources are binders to form the kibble to make it hard. Some of them are used for fiber content, etc. So I'm going to pause this. Let me pull up another label. All right, so this next label is a pretty good food, and we're gonna go over just the first few ingredients, and then I'm gonna go over a final ingredient label along here that is one of the cleanest and simplest formulas available in the entire United States. So let's look at label number 2. All right, label number 2: beef, pork, beef meal, whole red lentils, whole pinto beans, green peas, pork meal, beef fat, and then we'll forget about the rest for now. Okay. All right. So beef and pork. Great that these are at the top of the list, but again, they lose 70% of their water when they're 70% of their body weight. Listen to me. 70% of their weight after cooking. So the first animal protein on this is beef meal, which is good. All right. That's a good, solid animal protein source, and it is a meal. Okay. And by now you're probably thinking, well, what's the difference between a whole animal protein source and meal? It's very simple. if you see meal in the protein source, whether it's beef meal, chicken meal, turkey meal, okay, that means that the water is already extracted, almost like it's dehydrated or where the water is already extracted. They form it into a powder, they put it into the ration. So when you see a meal, that's what you're looking for as the first ingredient on any dry food label. If it's not a whole animal meal, then you really shouldn't, you should pass on and look for another food. Red lentils, obviously they need stuff in there to bind the food. I'm not a fan of the pinto beans. Pinto beans are kind of like what they consider a secondary a secondary binder to form the kibble, but it's probably used as a vitamin and mineral source in this particular food, or maybe a fiber source. Again, I'm not a fan of kibble to begin with, but this is not a bad food at all. And then you got whole grain peas again. I'm not a fan of peas. I'll go over that in another video. Pork meal is really good. Beef fat is really good. So this is a good food, and I'm going to bring up a third formula, and you're going to be amazed at the simplicity of this. Okay, here's your food. Chicken meal. We already talked about the difference between chicken meal versus whole chicken. Okay. Rice, pearled barley, safflower oil. That's it. That's the food. Okay. And obviously you have your vitamins and minerals, your salt and things like that. That comprises such a small amount of the food. It's not really relevant as it pertains to reading the ingredient list. Okay. But again, look at this formula: chicken meal, rice, and barley. I mean, that's it, right? Excuse me. Very simple formula, very hard to find. I'm going to show you the food. It's this food, Abity. It's very hard to find, but it's still one of the simplest, if not the simplest formulas of dry dog food available in the U.S. It's pretty common in the Northeast. I'm not sure about the rest of the country. It's hard to find down here in the Southeast, but a very good, simple food. It comes in a lamb formula too, so dogs that have sensitivity to dry food, something like this, the Chicken Frontier, and let me see if I can back up a little bit. And then the New York Natural is their lamb formula. And if we pull that up, where's your ingredients? Again, lamb meal, rice, pearled barley, safflower oil. That's it, right? Very simple formula. So that's really what you want to look for in dry foods. Hold on a second. Obviously, you want to, first and foremost, you want an animal protein meal as your first ingredient. Okay, not the first animal protein source, the first ingredient. If you see just chicken, just turkey, just beef, just lamb, just whitefish, just salmon, that is not the first ingredient, even though that's what it says on the bag. Remember, once it's cooked, it loses 70% its weight in water, and it drops down the list. So you want to see things like salmon meal, beef meal, chicken meal, turkey meal, lamb meal. That's what you want to see as the first ingredient. So look for a whole meat meal first. Okay, you want that first on the list. You want a simple ingredient list as well. You don't want too much starch or grains in there. Keep it as simple as possible. But when in doubt, just remember, dog food is listed in descending order by weight, pre-cooked. Hope this helps.